Welcome to episode 14 of The Brain and the Beard. This is episode 14, aka Sam Darnold, my Lord and Savior, number 14. So I'm excited about that. How you feeling, buddy?
You know what? I'm feeling a lot better today and later last night than I was yesterday, like early afternoon when the Jets were making absolutely no moves in free agency. I go out, get a little bit of ice cream. Clock hits like
Oh, wait, wait, wait,
8:30.
wait, wait, wait. What time did you get ice cream at?
No, I got ice cream. I left at like 7:30 and I was like, watch, the Jets are gonna make a move. By the time I get back, Corey Davis, official. I get the Bleacher Report notification. Of course, all day I'm watching TV, locked in. Like once I get out of work from like 5:30 to 7:30, locked in. Nothing happens. Leave, come back immediately. Notification, and then right after that, the Carl Lawson news broke. So some big deals for the Jets.
I'm not
And
as good at, how I found out about all the news?
how?
When you text me. You were like, Corey, wow. I was like, okay, Google.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it was a good day. It was a slow start. I know this is going to be, we did like a free agency preview last episode. This episode we're going to talk about some of the moves we agreed upon. I didn't think we were going to have anything to talk about going late into last night, and then all of a sudden the
we
moves
could have
started
just
flowing
we
in.
could have just chatted, we are brothers. We could have just caught up.
I know, all right. But we got some more interesting things to talk about now, right? But so the three moves the Jets made, all of these are obviously just agreements. They can't officially sign until I believe tomorrow, 4:00. You have the first deal of the day.
Hold on, real quick. Once again, I'm going off the cuff.
Oh, you're okay. You're completely off the cuff. I got some stuff to supplement it. We'll see how this goes.
I've been busy. Football season.
Hey, let's go. What's your mascot?
Clippers.
I like that. That's not bad, actually. All right. So the first move of the day, linebacker Jarrad Davis. This one trickled in later in the afternoon from the Detroit Lions. He was a first round pick in the Jamal Adams draft, I believe, 2017. He was the 21st pick out of Florida. He didn't get his fifth year option picked up, right? So he's young. He's 26 years old. He was a starter for his first 3 years. Last year was more situational. I think he only ended up playing like 30% of the snaps. He had an amazing 2018. Like you were thinking he was going to become one of the next star linebackers in the NFL, right? I think he had 100 tackles, 6 sacks. Then he kind of fell off a cliff in 2019. And then this year when he did play, he was solid in that supplemental role. So I think with the Jets, I'm hoping there was rumors that we were going to trade CJ Mosley now. I'm hoping that we just keep Mosley. Like we have this money. We don't need to keep getting rid of our good players, right? Like, so whether that's him playing either the Sam or the Will linebacker next to him, or just like, he's our third linebacker that's coming in certain packages. For the deal, it was 1 year, $5.5 million guaranteed. And then with incentives, it could get up to 7. So
now that's a prove it year. Like $5 million in pro sports is nothing, especially with the cap that we have.
Exactly.
It's a prove it year. I know the one thing I know about him is apparently there's some buzz around the league that he's good. Just it doesn't work in Detroit with him. Like he doesn't really fit that. So the buzz is like, I mean, like a lot of how a lot of people feel about Darnold, right? Like maybe he might do better elsewhere. But that's the buzz I know about him.
Yeah.
So hopefully he comes into Salah's, Salah's game plan, and he, even if he is a role player, $5 million role player,
exactly.
like Henry Anderson just got $7 million for 2 years. Like there's not that much difference there,
exactly.
Right?
And I think
in New England, Henry Anderson. Let me just correct myself. But I like the signing. We're beefing up. It's not killing you, and it's a prove it year. So,
and I think the big thing is we're transitioning obviously from the 3-4 to a 4-3. So like we just need 4-3 linebackers. So like it can't hurt. And like you said, there's a lot of parallels to draw here. Like with Darnold and Gase, they're saying was kind of Matt Patricia and Jarrad Davis. Like he was great before Patricia got there, and then Patricia got there, and it just did not work at all. So hopefully he can revive his career with the Jets. I know we mentioned, we didn't mention it, but we're going to give a grade here, or at least I'm going to give a grade. I'm going to go with a B- here because I think it's a low risk, medium reward. I don't think it could kill us. So I'm okay with the move. I do like it.
I'll give a B. Why not? Sure.
Yeah. All right. So
you know what? I'm a fan of prove it years, right? You're going to get this guy who's playing for a contract. He's playing he'll have a job probably going forward doing it, but he's trying to make big money like going forward, hopefully.
Yeah,
so hopefully it lights a spark under his butt.
And he plays with a lot of fire. I know there's one clip that was going around the YouTube, Twitter yesterday of like him walking, but it was a QB spy. But they're like, "Oh, love his motor." Like it's funny, I guess. Like but he plays really hard, and I'm excited to see what he could do on the prove it year, like you mentioned. So this was the first big splash for the Jets. Corey Davis. This one came in around 8:30 last night, 8 o'clock last night. I love this move. I really wanted to get one of those top receivers we mentioned, whether it was Galladay, Samuel, Juju, or Corey Davis. And outside of Galladay,
I saw your TikTok. You thought he was going to New England.
yeah, because I thought they needed that big body outside receiver that we needed as well. Like he's a very complete guy. Even though I did like Juju and I did want Juju, it wasn't the perfect fit with Crowder here. Like we didn't. Then it gets like, do we cut Crowder, right? Which I didn't want to do at all. And like, how do you split? Most of Juju's career was in the slot. So like Corey Davis is a legit outside receiver. I think he could teach Mims a ton. And him and Mims are going to be like the best blocking duo in the league. So like, if you want to establish that outside run that, that the LaFleur Shanahan system is, this is a perfect fit. And, he was the 5th pick in the draft. He was the pick before Jamal Adams in 2017.
I love it. I love this signing. I think Corey Davis is good. Like we said, once again, didn't really break the bank, right? Didn't kill us. What was he 3 years? What?
3 years, 37.5 million, 27 guaranteed. So he got high-end wide receiver 2 numbers. And
but he's going to be our one.
Yeah.
He's going to be our one with making 2 money, which is, kind of a steal, I think, for us. I think, watching the Titans play a bunch. I kind of watched the Titans a lot last year when they were on because, shout out Rich B, but
guest of the pod,
our guest of the pod. But I don't know. I always kind of just found myself tuning into their games, and he was always one of those guys making plays. His name getting thrown around. I watched. After we got him, I watched some of his highlights. Tell Billy's calling me right now. I don't know why, but I'm birthday boy. I am ecstatic that we're bringing him in and we got him for a good price.
Yeah.
And I do think now that you're bringing in your number one, excuse my phone, that you're bringing in your number one. And I know I talked last week about trading back our draft pick to get maybe Devonta Smith.
Now you don't need to.
Now maybe you trade back a few spots and you get the tackle,
or you get your boy Kyle Pitts.
Or you get the tight end.
No,
right?
So yeah, hey, there is a lot of different opportunities there. I think the big thing with Corey Davis is, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option
also,
as a first-round pick.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead, and I'll go.
No, I was gonna say they didn't pick up his option. It was like we mentioned, that prove it year. He came out and put up well over 900 yards, 5 touchdowns in only 14 games. He played like a wide receiver 1, and I think he's just scratching the surface. I think he was a late bloomer, and I really do think we're gonna see a lot of we're going to get him at a great value and get so many of those benefits that we would have to pay top dollar for if maybe it was 1 year later in his career.
I think what hurt him was AJ Brown, right?
Yeah.
They have their one. Like AJ Brown is probably head to head a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy. I think with them having their one, it kind of handcuffed him a little bit because you can't pay this guy like a 1 if you already have your 1, right? And what I was going to say was, man, the Titans are kind of losing a lot of weapons right now.
Yeah, and they just cut Adoree Jackson today, the corner. They cut Malcolm Butler last week, right? They lost Corey Davis. They lost Jonnu Smith. They just traded their first-round draft pick last year, the right tackle, Isaiah Wilson. So,
what's going on over there?
I don't know. I mean, they did get Bud Dupree, but they paid him top dollar. I think they gave him like $16.5 million a year, 5-year deal coming off that torn ACL in December. And then I think they just brought in, I'm not 100%. I think it's Janoris Jenkins, the corner from the Saints and Giants previously, but I could be wrong on that. But they did bring in an older corner today. But it's definitely interesting. I'll say this one more time, circling back to the wide receiver group, right? Because that's the one position right now that's not flying off the board. So it felt like we kind of had pick of the litter, right? We still were sitting on all this money last night. I was really between, I wanted Galladay, but the more I read and, saw different people posting, Galladay's biggest weakness is creating separation, right? Like he creates no separation, but he just catches everything because he's, such a monster of a target. But the thing is, that's Denzel Mims' downfall, is Mims doesn't create elite separation at all. So it's like if we had Galladay and Mims, and people were saying like, Galladay is what Mims is.
You'd have 2 guys, right? Who aren't getting wide open.
You'd have 2 similar guys where I just think now this wide receiver group is much more balanced with Crowder, Corey Davis, and and with Denzel Mims. So I really do like the signing. This one's like a B plus for me. I mean, borderline A.
I'll go A minus because of, first of all, the price, right? And it's something to be said when you bring in now a number one, right?
Yeah.
We had what, 2 number 2s and a number 3 last year, essentially.
Yeah.
And you know what? To their credit, they didn't play all that bad, our receivers, but it does, it holds a little bit of weight to have a real number one.
And I don't think that wide receiver room is done. I don't think it's going to be another big splash. Like, I don't think we're going to go double dipping at Juju or Curtis Samuel, but I do think we'll supplement it, whether it's through the draft or, a mid-level.
They'll definitely draft a receiver.
Yeah. So I'm happy with that. I really like the way that went. And then
I love this next one.
The biggest signing, I was jacked up when I saw this. Actually, Joey Arch texted me, and he was like, Joe Douglas is active. And I was like, that has to mean something. I opened Twitter immediately, and I got like a flood of notifications.
That's our boy, Joe. That's our boy, Joey Arch.
Yeah. Big off-season guy with me. We text all day about it. So, this was cool to see. This is a guy I've been talking about for a while. I know you were talking about him a lot last week. We both loved him. The Jets have signed Carl Lawson, the defensive end from the Cincinnati Bengals, to a 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed. This dude is, when I say scratching the surface, he is just scratching the surface. 26 years old, in the same draft as Corey Davis and Jarrad Davis. Clearly, we like that 2017 group. 4 years in the NFL. He's a physical specimen, right? Just an animal.
Going off, I heard Chris Sims talking about him, and he described him perfectly, right? He described him as a ball of muscle coming off the edge.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect analogy for what he is, a ball of muscle coming off. And like you said, with that untapped potential, and I know I kind of cut you off, and I'll let you finish in a second.
No,
but like we mentioned last week, what do you have, 32 QB hits?
32 QB hits.
32 QB hits. Like, so he's getting home, right? He's getting home, and we need him to continue, obviously. And I think in Salah's his defense, I think in his defense, he's just going to excel. And they were making parallels between him and John Abraham, right? The Jets haven't had an edge rusher since John Abraham. And I can't even give you the exact, what was that? My childhood, right?
It was over a decade ago, right?
Yeah. So if we're bringing someone off the edge and this guy, and they're talking, I mean, we're paying him, pretty hefty amount of money, but if we're bringing someone in and they're drawing parallels to John Abraham as a Jets fan, as a lifelong Jets fan, that kind of brings a smile to my face and gets me sort of excited.
Oh yeah, no, I'm thrilled with this. Like you mentioned, we haven't had an edge rusher in over a decade. I mean, Calvin Pace was probably the closest thing to it, but we got him towards the tail end. I mean, he did put in a bunch of good years.
I got down with Calvin though. I like.
Yeah,
Calvin.
no, I was a big fan of Calvin Pace, but back to Lawson's production. I mean, the sack numbers weren't exactly where he wanted to be, 5.5, but he had 32 QB hits. In the 4-year career, I think he's got 20 sacks and 83 QB hits. So he gets to the passer, and that's all we need.
Go check his tape if you haven't, Marky. When they played the Steelers on the Monday night, it was like 2 play. Like, he absolutely destroyed the wide receiver on a jet sweep for like a loss of 6, and then he sacked Big Ben and he laid Big Ben out. And Big Ben's a big boy, so like watching that after we got him, I was like, oh, let's go.
No, I'm pumped, and hopefully we could get that other bookend defensive end. I do really like Jonathan Franklin Myers, but I'd like to get one more like pass rush specialist, whether it's a veteran right now like Kerry Hyder, one of Salah's boys from San Francisco, or if we just draft another one in the draft. But our D-line group is looking great, so I'm very happy. That's a clear-cut A for me, probably an A+. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
So that was probably one of my top guys in free agency. We were talking all about it last week, and we're glad that one came true for sure. So let's talk about some other deals that might have some like fringe impact on the Jets, right? So I guess the first one I want to talk about is...
Wait, before we get off the Jets.
Yes.
Before we get off the Jets, give me 2 guys that you want to see us sign in the upcoming days.
Okay.
I think Sherman still. I think
a corner is a must. So I actually think we need 2 corners. We need an outside corner and a slot. So I'm going to give you more than 2. I'll give you 1 at each position. I'd like to go Sherman as our primary corner, right? That outside corner. Won't be mad if it's William Jackson, but that's going to be big money. And then maybe like an Adoree Jackson or something like that. You know what I mean? And then at slot, it's either going to be Quan Williams from San Francisco or Brian Poole. I'm totally.
I'm cool with Poole.
I think I'd rather keep some continuity and bring Poole back as well.
I want to see Poole just because I think Poole has a big upside that we haven't seen yet. Like he had some injuries, right? He was out for a couple games. I feel like we just haven't really seen all he can give yet. And I do think that, like, in a Jets uniform, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I do think that he can elevate his game this year. And I want to see us re-sign him as our slot corner.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to bring in a vet edge rusher as well. I mentioned before, Kerry Hyder. That's the guy that I think makes a lot of sense. That's a solid guy. And then I'd like to get a running back, a veteran running back. I mean, the two guys for me that stand out, Jamal Williams, BYU guy, could be pairing him with Zach Wilson. But besides that, like, I just love the way he plays with energy, plays with heart, team guy. I think he'd fit well with Joe and what Robert Saleh and Joe want to do. And then also, if we're going to go a little bit bigger, Chris Carson. But I think that running back market is very depressed right now, where I don't think you're going to be paying that $8-9 million that maybe we thought for Chris Carson. It might be more around like $5 or $6 million. So those are two guys that I would love to get one of them. But yeah, and then when it comes to interior offensive line, I know a lot of Jets fans are talking about that right now. It seems like the best players available are centers, and I would rather just leave McGovern at center and go draft, a guard early. Maybe take a guard at 23 and 34.
I thought they came out saying that McGovern was going to stay at center.
Yes, and that's the thing. And so they said they weren't really interested in Corey Linsley because of that. But now, off the top of my head, I'm forgetting his name. Rodney Hudson, maybe one of the best centers in the league from Oakland, just got cut today. And they're like, that's an instant upgrade. I agree with that, but like, we could get very good guards at 23 and 34 or 23 and in the 50s, whatever it may be. So, and we do have Greg Van Roten and Alex Lewis. I think one of them can be serviceable, right, as the other starters. So I'm totally fine with not doing much offensive line work in the free agency right now.
Speaking of guard, you were so high on Joe Thuney, right?
That was the first deal I was going to bring up that, we kind of got a stray bullet, it felt like. With
I was going to say, how are you feeling? Because you were kind of all in on him.
I was really bummed. And, this is my thing. So for those of you that might not know, he signed a 5-year deal with Kansas City for $80 million.
Crazy that he went to KC, huh?
And then all their stars restructured basically to clear up that room. Mahomes restructured, Kelsey, and I think one of their other big guys. But this is the thing.
Mahomes go from like $500 million to like $490.
Well, I don't think you lose any of the money. I just think it's the way that they pay it to you. But so I think he's still getting his. My thing is this. I'm not even mad at the Jets or Joe Douglas. Like, we physically cannot top that deal. He got $16 million a year over 5 years to go protect the best quarterback in football on a Super Bowl caliber team. Like,
second best quarterback, Sam Darnold's number one.
Yeah. Like, what could we have offered? Like, we realistically probably would have had to give him $20 million, like $4 million extra a year, like an extra $20 million total. Like,
not worth it.
Not worth it. I'm not upset about that. And like we said with Corey Linsley, he was the other big interior guy. He went to the Chargers on, I think, 5 years, $62.5 million, making him the highest paid center in the NFL. Again, similar situation. He went, to probably a better situation right now for elite money. Like, we weren't going to top that. So I'm not upset with either of those, those deals. I mean, they hurt. Obviously, I wanted Thuney, but I understand.
Yeah, no, I got you. I think Joe Douglas was active day one. And I think he did. I think they're doing a great job so far. Like, everything they're doing is making sense on paper,
and it's
right?
Sustainable. They're young.
It's making sense on paper. Hopefully it translates to the field. And look, it's not going to be an overnight thing. We're not going to be a Super Bowl team next year, even though week one, I'm going to predict Super Bowl because that's just who I am and that's what I do. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what we're doing right now is taking steps in the right direction as an organization, right? Yeah. We got to try to close a gap, not with New England, with Buffalo, right? Yeah. And New England, and I know you're going to mention them in a little bit, they had to close a gap now, and they threw money around like it was going out of style yesterday. Yeah. So besides the Dolphins, everyone in the AFC East right now is kind of bulking themselves up. Like, I know, and
the Dolphins will make their moves.
Yeah. Sure. And I know we're coming from the bottom of the barrel, right? We're way in the back here, but we're doing the right things right now to close that gap. Is it going to be an overnight success? Probably not. Do I hope it is? Absolutely. But the coach, the free agent signings, look, Joe Douglas is going to do right by us in the draft too, in my opinion. Regardless, if he goes with the quarterback, and I've been preaching Sam, right? I have my utmost faith in him, and I think we're just taking steps in the right direction, and we're going to close that gap like I mentioned, and, we might be closer than people think.
And this is the thing. I like I was mentioning.
That was probably the most humble Jets take I've ever had.
Yeah, I'll say this. I do really like the Jets' approach right now in this free agency period. Like, I was frustrated yesterday afternoon. I was getting pissed. All these big time guys were coming off the board, and I was like, we need to make a move. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think Joe panicked. I think he got his guys for a reasonable price. A lot of the other deals seemed insane, like Leonard Floyd getting 16 million a year, like just these insane deals. And I think we got pretty good value. Like, we paid, top dollar for these guys, but I think it was the right price. And now we still have, I think Connor Hughes, the Jets beat reporter for The Athletic, I think he put out our estimated cap right now after those deals are factored in is around 50 million. And then you got to figure, like,
You got to save some.
you got to figure there's going to be like $12 to $20, $20,
$20.
12
What are we getting,
to,
a sandwich?
yeah, I know. 12 to 20 million will probably be left over by the time we get to the draft. We're not going to spend that. But even if it's 20 million left over, you still have $30 million, like 30 to $40 million to spend right now if you really want to. And, all these teams use their money up in a year where the cap has come down so much that we're going to get some bargain deals here. That's one thing. And also, I really do like that the guys we locked up, the two main guys, with Lawson and Corey Davis, they weren't 1 year deals. You know what I mean? These are 3-year deals, and it feels like these guys are here to stay, which is nice.
All right, before we get off the Jets, and this is the second time I'm doing this, one thing I did hear thrown around, and obviously it's been the debate between you and I on this podcast is, keep Sam, trade Sam, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Samwell, right? The teams who are interested, those boxes are slowly being filled up. So one of two things is happening. We might be waiting a little bit too long on making a trade on Sam, or maybe they're planning on keeping him, right? Because Washington football team, great landing spot for him. Didn't happen,
Fits.
right? The Colts, great landing spot for him.
Done.
Kid from Philadelphia, Wentz, gone. Where else?
Today, the Bears, Andy Dalton, 1 year, $10 million deal. I don't really, I think the
That's
only
okay.
way.
Maybe they're just waiting out for the next draft class, like with that.
Yeah. But when it comes to Darnold, I think at that point you would obviously need to probably take Foles back in a deal to get that. Like, they're not going to have Foles, Sam, and Dalton. But apparently they tried to make a huge push for Russell Wilson, the Bears, and they basically said we're not trading him, and then they moved on to Andy Dalton. So like you mentioned, this well is drying up a lot. We're losing a lot of trade partners. Washington was probably the big one. I still think reasonably maybe
and, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they
just got Dwayne Haskins as
So I would say it's probably like San Francisco. They're saying isn't that interested. Maybe San Francisco, Carolina. I've been hearing Denver possibly because Elway loves Sam.
I thought they like Locke.
Maybe just to throw him in.
You're not bringing Sam in as a backup.
No, just as competition because Drew Lock's all right, but so I think to me those are probably the 3 top landing spots. People are still saying New Orleans. I don't see how with Jameis and Taysom. But.
Well, I saw. Someone had a take. I forget who it was. They were saying how New Orleans is like the 2021 version of the 2020 Patriots.
Yeah.
Like they're due for a down year for them coming up.
Yeah. So that's really all I got on Sam. I think you mentioned maybe there is a chance they hold on to him. I don't know. If not, it would, that would make you happy. We'll see. Time will tell with this one. I think this is going to drag out a lot longer. One interesting note, actually, I got a couple interesting QB. You know what? We'll go into that next. So we're pretty much wrapped up, right, with the Jets free agency for now. We graded out what we think. Overall, I give the Jets a B+ through the first wave of free agency.
Great first day.
But I'm very happy with that, and I think it's only going to continue to get better with these value signings that they're going to fill in. I think that's where Joe's going to really strive. So let's talk about some other teams.
Okay.
Let's talk about
look. I'm not going to – I know what the Jets did. I'm not really going to know what other teams might have done.
No,
so these are all going to be, hey, throw something at me and I'll give you my take.
No, I'm not really going to get into deal specifics. More of I guess, larger implications. First, let's just talk about the Patriots. Like we said, they're spending like drunken sailors. Like Bill Belichick came within an hour of free agency starting. It felt like there was 5 deals done. Most notably, they brought, Jonnu Smith in. They brought in Hunter Henry, the 2 top tight ends.
That's scary.
That's the one thing that scares me.
Because I think back to Gronk Hernandez when they had that dual tight end threat. Now they're going to have Jonnu, who had 12 touchdowns last year, and Hunter Henry, who's a beast too. So if there's one thing in the past the Jets did not cover well, it's tight ends, right?
Well, they said Jamal Adams is probably so happy he's out of the division.
Yeah. So That scares me. Those two guys coming in because they're both studs too.
Yeah, no, I'm not thrilled about that. The moves that they made that I don't like, I don't know what was up with their wide receiver signings. I know Kendrick Bourne was the target of the Jets, but they basically threw a ton of money at Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar. Aguilar got $13 million a year.
The best thing Aguilar, remember?
Yeah, that video in Philly?
The person, there was a fire. Someone was catching the babies, and the guy gets on. Yeah, we were catching the babies, unlike Aguilar.
Yeah, so Aguilar did have a nice bounce back year, but he was coming off the minimum salary in Vegas, and now he's getting close
good
to
for him.
million.
He made some
no,
money.
No, I'm
you know
happy
what?
for him.
Good for us too, because Aguilar is due to drop some balls.
Yeah, I mean, the value of Corey Davis making less money than Aguilar is a little crazy to me. And then who else was they brought in Matt Judon. Henry Anderson, Matt Judon, the outside linebacker from the Ravens. He was a nice signing.
That's a good get. That's a good get.
He got a lot of money, a little bit overpaid, but look, they're getting guys. And then I think they got a defensive tackle from, I want to say like the Dolphins. And then Jalen Mills, the D-back from the Eagles. So they brought in a lot of players. And, I was seeing
quantity.
Mike Dunn, of course, Mike Dunn, he was sending me all their updated cap numbers, and they're still sitting at like 30 plus million the way that they structured all the deals. Like this year, there's like no cap hit for any of these guys. It's like 3 or 4 million because apparently like the TV deal is going to like blossom and like open up a lot of cap in the future. So I don't know.
Well, I think what happened in New England was they saw Tom Brady go win a Super Bowl, and they had a down year. And I just
started throwing money.
I just think that Bill was like, enough of this. I want to win football games again. Spend your money, because typically they never really brought in huge name guys. They would just kind of create, like they would get people and work them into their systems. Now I think they're going to start they're bringing in some bigger name guys.
Yeah, I'll say this. My closing notes on the Patriots, what they've done.
Did they re-sign Cam?
Yeah, Cam's back.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. Maybe they got to bring in a young QB in the draft or Jimmy G, one of the two.
He can't be your starter.
Well,
again. He threw balls at everybody's shins.
Yeah, Cam's cap hit. I don't know what it is, but I know that it could get up to 14 million with incentives, but it won't. It's probably in the low, like single digits, obviously. But the thing with this, they spent so much money, and before the Hunter Henry signing, let me preface it with that. I was like, they just spent so much money, and they didn't really walk away with anyone that like moves the needle that much. But now I think once you added Hunter Henry in that mix, like I gotta say, they did bring in some big time guys. Like it feels a lot different now that Henry's in the mix.
Couple first day question marks though, like Henry Anderson first day signing in free agency.
Well, how about Pat Elflein, the guard from the Jets? He was one of the first signees. I think like an hour in, 3 years, $13.5 million to Carolina.
Really?
The guy we picked up on waivers, like, and he played like 5 or 6 games.
Good for him.
Yeah. So that wraps up.
He's making $13 million.
Yeah, he
oh my God, he was garbage for us though. Like,
so I got a deal for you.
What do you mean?
That you probably haven't heard yet. That's interesting for a couple different reasons. Tyrod Taylor to the Texans could make up to $12.5 million based on
this happens.
This happened. Do you think that's hinting that's a backup plan for Watson not playing?
I think,
and we all know Tyrod's the king of being like the bridge QB for young QBs. So maybe they're planning on taking our second pick. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but.
Well, I just hope we don't throw too much at him if that is the case.
But that one.
Yo, but you know how I said we're not too far off? Yeah. If we do get Watson reasonably, and I want to preface that with reasonably, right? We don't have to throw everything at them. Then you're in almost a win now situation.
I mean, think about Watson could do some damage with Crowder, Corey Davis, and Denzel Mims. You know what I mean? Like,
I kind of talked myself out of Watson, but like now
you'll talk yourself back in.
I would be in a second.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would Tyrod
for that much
be
money,
Watson's
for
backup?
that much
like,
money?
I think they said like without the incentives, like say he doesn't play at all, it's still like $6-7 million, I think, which is still a lot.
Well, so Tyrod, I think, is the best backup in the league.
Yes, and it's just interesting to me because I don't see a world where it's Watson and Tyrod like as your 1 and 2. Like, I just think they're prepping for that Armageddon.
Well, maybe they're
right?
prepping for the hold like if he holds out.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was interesting, and then I think another.
I did not know that. That was that was news to me. That was breaking news for me.
I think another interesting QB signing, which happened even after that. Clearly, the QB market moved a lot today. And from 5 to 6 o'clock, you had Andy Dalton, Tyrod, and then this last one.
Can I say one thing about Andy?
Yeah.
I don't hate Andy Dalton getting 1 year, 10 million, like you said.
No, me either.
I think he played awesome last year for what he had to do. And I think that if you're giving him 1 year, look, I don't think he's ever going to be a franchise quarterback going forward. He's going to be an awesome backup like he was last year. But him at the helm for a year doesn't kill your franchise.
Yeah, but this is my thing. I agree with you completely, but I just think it's a puzzling move in the sense that Pace, the GM, and Nagy, this is their last chance, like this year.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why, but like, I don't think they had another option. Like they went all in on Russell Wilson and couldn't get him. So like that, I won't rule them out of the Sam Darnold sweepstakes yet. Cause like if Sam and Dalton kind of make sense together. I don't know. Like,
I don't think you bring two guys in at that
price point, right?
That price point, 15, say, hey, million, battle it out. That's a $10 million quarterback battle right there. Like
exactly.
But same thing with Tyrod. I know he wouldn't be battling Deshaun, but
it's interesting. The Tyrod one is definitely interesting. And then this last one,
I love. Can I say one before you go?
Yeah.
Fitzmagic.
Washington. Great fit.
I love it.
Killed us. Did not want that to happen at all for the Sam Darnold trade stuff. But I'm happy he's there.
I love Fitz. Yes. All right. For the implications for us but like I didn't want to get rid of Sam in the first place, but the implications for us as Jets fans, who I think every team that Fitzpatrick plays for, they love him, right? Yeah. I love rooting for him, but I couldn't when he was in division. Now that he's out of division again, I could be a huge Ryan Fitzmagic
I'll root
fan.
For them for sure. And then
I think it's good for him that he's going to be like, hey, you're the starter, go play.
And he has Terry McLaurin. Hopefully they get him like Kenny Golladay to keep him away from the Dolphins, and they can just toss it up to those two. But talking about the Dolphins, today they signed Jacoby Brissett, which makes me think they are not trading for Watson either, because Brissett is the perfect backup to Tua. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to like go sign Brissett for this money. I'm sure he got decent money and then bring in Watson. So like, I don't know. I think it's shaping up pretty nicely for the Jets in terms of Watson.
Jacoby Brissett, man, that dude has been bouncing around for
years,
good, dude. Like, yeah, he's just like a role guy who just finds a team every year. Usually starts a couple games.
I think he'll push Tua. I don't think he'll win the job, but like that's
I don't think Flores is sold on Tua.
Yeah, but that's real competition for Tua. That's not Joe Flacco with Sam Darnold last year. Like that's legit competition. Brissett wants it. He's still young. So like, I think he's going to push Tua, and I think it's a great fit. I'm just shocked they've been sort of inactive in free agency, but I guess they were such big spenders last year. But yeah, so those were pretty much all the deals. I know we're running a little short on time. Like, I think we made a lot of, solid points here, and it was just good to, get some feelings out about these signings and, where we want to move forward.
I think the Jets did well. I think a lot of teams, have done pretty well for themselves so far with these signings. And I do think that the AFC East now is we're bridging gaps. The Bills are that number one team. We're bridging gaps. And obviously the big question mark for Joe Douglas is going to be what we've kind of talked about for the past couple episodes. Is the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
What's he going to do? Because if he stays with Sam and they don't win, that's his job.
Yeah.
If he gets rid of Sam and Sam goes and balls out somewhere else, and this Zach Wilson kid isn't the truth, then that's his job, right? And if we pass on Zach Wilson and Zach Wilson goes somewhere and balls out, then Joe looks bad again. He is in such a tough position with this decision, and everybody and their mother in New York has an agenda or like an opinion on it, and it's in a tough spot. So I'm very, very, very curious to see where they go with that. My stance. I know your stance. We're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, but when it's all said and done, we're going to be,
rooting for whoever it is,
rooting for the quarterback in green. But I'm free agency has been fun. I'm more curious about what we do with this draft.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll say either way, whether it's draft, trade, it's a tough decision, but he has a lot of great options. When relying on Sam Darnold is your worst option, that's not that bad. You know what I mean? Like, you have a chance at Wilson, Fields, Watson, or Sam. So like, I think that,
I don't think Wilson.
I think Wilson is the most likely. Zach Wilson.
Oh, I thought you said Russell.
No. They're talking Zach. Yeah, I think Zach Wilson's the most likely, and I honestly think Watson is a real possibility now. So we'll
You're
see.
talking. I literally can see the gears turning in your head, and you're talking yourself into Watson right now.
I think Fields is the least likely. I think,
Yeah, I think he's fallen off on the draft boards.
and I think Sam's odds took a big boost recently too, because I like you said, that's starting to like creep into my brain. Like they didn't make this trade. They knew these guys were going to sign deals, these QBs, whether it was Fitz or Dalton. Like maybe this is for real. Maybe Salah and LaFleur and and Joe want to keep Sam. So we'll see.
I'll tell you this: behind closed doors, I guarantee you they already know what they're doing.
Yes, I agree.
You know,
I don't think the pro days matter. Like watching a guy throw in shorts like for a half an hour.
Yeah, right now they know who their guy's going to be, I think. Unless it's someone you get in a trade. Like
yeah, you know who else probably knows? Corey Davis. I'm sure he asked that. Right? You got to. If you're a guy that's signing away your future like that, like
yeah,
I would want to know like who's going to be. Do we have an idea?
Who's throwing me the rock? Do I have a chance of being a Pro Bowl receiver?
Yeah, so I think that he might know, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, that sounds good. That should do it for us today. Good free agent talk, and we'll catch you next week here on the Brain and the Beard. Later, everybody.